Mr. Alex Gumpel is ready for us to begin.
Let's roll.
Oh, thank goodness. But in that case, I'll stop polishing my glasses and we'll get ready to rock it.
Is that what the kids call it these days?
And on camera, too.
So, music, Glenn, are you starting?
I'm starting.
Okay.
Let's,
At the Controls is brought to you by Advertiser.
Welcome to At the Controls, our post-E3 wrap-up. This is still the new TWiT video gaming show beta. I am Glenn Rubenstein. With us, as always, Brian Brushwood, and back once again.
As not always.
As sporadically.
Yes.
Semi-frequently.
Stochastically. It's
Ooh,
not random,
good.
but it might appear that way.
Tom Merritt.
Hello.
Back with less
The
teeth.
show is so much more polished. It has music.
We've been working. We've been working at things.
That's amazing.
Yes. So this is our post-E3 wrap-up show. Now, you're not going to see the smooth and seamless transitions just from story to story to story like you normally do each week. Well, let's not kid ourselves. It's never really been quite like that. It's more sort of open-form discussion with a little bit of refereeing, which is why it's great that you're here, Tom.
Our news section won't be the tight boom, boom, boom. Because
ultimately
we're going to do our E3 wrap-up today.
Yeah. Today it's going to be a little more just telling the story. You know, I feel like we should.
This is sort of the equivalent of, look, we're not going to say that we're going to bring you the whole experience. For that, you know, we did as much as we possibly could with 6 hours of live streaming via the Live View unit. We're going to come back and just tell you how freaking great the concert was. And just in front of you say, like, and remember the one part when the guy came back out and played Freebird backwards on the accordion? Oh, my God.
And I'll be the one sitting here going, no. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Dude, no, you just should have been there, Tom. You should have been there, man. There's no way to capture it. That's
it was really fun. Wish
it was insane.
Could have gone, but I wasn't there.
But I'm sure, you know, like getting a tooth out or whatever it is you were up to. I'm sure it was just fun.
Equally cool. Equally fun.
Yeah, you guys should be jealous of me.
We should have live streamed that.
You know, I thought about it. I don't think the dentist.
Funny. I guess actually, technically, being on the Vicodin, Tom got more of the rock concert experience than we did being at E3, walking around playing video games. We were looking at bouncy houses in the middle of E3.
Well, let's go platform by platform here. Start off with the Nintendo recap.
Oh man,
nothing big happened. Surprisingly, went there. I guess Super Mario.
All right, good. Let's move on to
again.
Now, come on, the Wii U.
Well, the whole experience, I think, is probably the best way to do it. I mean, the Wii U obviously was the high point of the show. Now, I've had some time to sort of digest the hype, as it were, and sort of flesh out my expectations a little bit for the system. But for those of you that don't know or haven't paid any attention whatsoever this week, Nintendo teased their new system that will be coming out sometime in 2012, the Wii U. And this is a high-definition system. The graphics are about on par with the 360 or PS3, but the big feature of the system is the 6.2-inch controller that has a 6.2-inch LCD screen built in, allowing you to do augmented reality, to do motion control, to do second screen access. And they showed off some really impressive video of all the different ways that this can sort of integrate into gaming. Now, of course, all they had to show us on the show floor were 8, technology demos, essentially, of different experiences the system could do. So we won't really know until next year how great these games are. But for me, at least, it showed a lot of promise, I think, in terms of the future of gaming. I mean, Brian, what were your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the star of the show was the Wii U remote control. It first of all, when you list all the things it does, it ends up sounding like some kind of crazy Boba Fett of controllers. It's got but when you grip it, it feels very, very natural. Their stated goal during the presentation was that we want to stay just as approachable as we always have been with the Wii audience. You know, we realize we've tapped into something and that we're getting grandparents to play. It's easy to pick up and get into the game. We want to keep that, but we understand that we need more complexity, more ability to make more in-depth controls possible to attract the hardcore gamers. So this thing, it's a wireless tablet, I guess, with when you grip it on the sides, you immediately have bumpers and triggers just like you do on the Xbox 360. It feels very, very natural. There's a front-facing camera. There's a stylus. You could draw on it. You got control buttons. You got 2 analog pads. It is.
That's what I love. The Ninja Star part of the demo of sliding it off the pad.
It sounds insane. Like this is going to be a giant pain in the butt and it's going to be overwhelming. But holy cow, was it ever intuitive and simple when you actually picked it up? And for me, the moment I saw it, I was highly, highly skeptical. But when we later that day got hands-on with it, the whole thing boiled down to one thing, which was the unfathomably precise, easy control with the accelerometer. This thing really did feel like a window into another world in a way I've not experienced on the iPad. I've not experienced on the iPhone, even with the gyroscope and accelerometer. There's something about that soft Nintendo glow that really made it an incredible experience. What was it like for you, Glenn?
I mean, I thought it was very smooth. I felt like just the potential for it. I mean, in terms of looking at the video that they were showing all the different things you could do with it, like we saw with the Ninja Stars, like just sliding it off the screen to fire them. From there, we saw the idea that you could be showing something on the web and essentially call up a page by doing a slide motion, which is something for me, the first thing I thought of is like, why didn't Apple do this with the iPad and have that seamless integration in iLife, being able to essentially use it as a controller for your Mac to like you can drag and drop photos, not in the cloud, but literally swipe a photo from one device to the next. That's what I thought was just, I mean, just think about the potential in terms of the things you can do.
And to be honest, that's where I think Apple really dropped the ball. They had the opportunity to make the Apple TV essentially the console to go head-to-head with, Nintendo, Xbox, PS3, but instead they went the other way and they made it just a TV player.
I just want to come in and give both of you a warning infraction for turning a conversation into a conversation about Apple that was not originally about Apple.
But it's true, though. Okay. I mean, and this is kind of, we're going to talk about this more in terms of E3 in general.
A yellow card we got from Tom. Okay, that was a yellow card.
Let's look at, we'll get to it more in a second, but look at the fact, and we were talking about this at the show, Microsoft and Sony were so big on motion controls. In terms of now they're just really, getting into motion control and what that can do for their consoles. And here's Nintendo once again leading the way with really mainstreaming this idea of using a multi-screen interface as a controller. Now, I want to jump ahead just because this is important to touch upon. Joshua Caleb from the great Retro Games Forever, he sent an email saying, he heard us talking in the stream, and he said, well, it's, the Wii U did take the E3 by storm, but the idea of a controller being a second display isn't entirely new or difficult to duplicate. And he's not just talking about the Dreamcaster's virtual memory unit. He's saying, well, you give me some instances, like Microsoft showed interconnectivity with Windows Phone 7 and the Xbox that could be done with control, or there's an iOS game developer, Firement, that for Real Racing 2 HD is going to have through AirPlay mirroring, allowing you to use your iPad as a controller while you play the game on your TV. And then the UDraw tablet for the Wii is also being ported to the other systems. So while he's saying that, and I don't think we're saying that Nintendo is the first, but here's my point with it, is the fact that these are limited instances, but when Nintendo does this, you're going to have hundreds of titles that support this.
You don't have to be first, you just have to be best.
You have to maintain.
And what Nintendo showed off at E3 was, we have figured out how to make this work really well.
Yes.
I mean, in the videos everybody sees, you see wires coming off of it. Don't let that confuse you. They had to be tethered. They didn't want people walking away with them. It's also a demonstration unit, right?
Definitely.
But it's going to be a wireless 6-inch screen that can be used for, like you said, you can toss things off of it. You can actually play part of the game just on that screen. So things like Madden, where you need to put
you can play the whole game on the screen. You don't even need your TV.
Screen. That's the opening thing on the demo. The opening thing on the demo was really curious because the demo started with somebody walking into a room and says, "Hey, kid, get off my console. I want to watch the game," which is something that every kid has dealt with when mom or dad wants to come in and use the machine, use the big TV. And then this is like, okay, whatevs. And then they're just continued to play the full experience.
But no more cardboard taped to the TV to keep people from seeing your side of the screen.
And they were showing that with the multi. I mean, so Brian and I played a game where we're running around in a level, and one of us was in the spaceship shooting down at the other person, and the ship controls were all on the Wii U controller, and we're flying. So it was interesting that, I mean, granted, I could look and see what Brian was doing, but he couldn't see what I was doing in terms of, sneaking up on him and firing away.
Yeah, I think here's the key, though. Like, there's lots of impressive stuff, and you guys got wowed. I could tell that just by watching our E3 coverage when you were live. But is it going to bring the hardcore gamer in? Because Nintendo stated that as one of their objectives is, we've got the casual gamers, we need to keep them and expand the tent so the hardcore gamers want to play this too.
You know what? They don't need to. Weirdly, from a financial standpoint, they don't need to get the hardcore gamers to buy a Wii U. They need to get the hardcore gamers to shut up about the Wii U. This is there, and now you have no excuse. We have the developers, so when your grandmother buys one, you can't act like you're smug in spirit, because guess what? The games are going to be badass. You're going to get exactly what you want. We've won the game now.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about Battlefield coming to this. They're talking. I mean, think about that. Think about the type of controls you could do having that second controller. But what I felt like playing it, and I'll get to this in a second in terms of what I think one of the drawbacks is I felt like it was the multiplayer LAN experience, but self-contained. And that's something that's very hard to duplicate in a casual environment when you just have a bunch of friends over.
That's always been my biggest complaint with the console market in general, is that the only way you could get multiplayer is either say, hey, let's play multiplayer. I'll drive home to my house and then give you a call. Or it's like, hey, let's play multiplayer, where the two of us are each of us getting only half the screen, and there's no information inefficiency. There's no sneak attacks in console gaming until now. Now you can have everybody in the room together. And to be honest, I even kind of like the hide and seek tag game as an idea. The idea that one person has unfair amounts of information, but the other people have unfair amounts of numbers, and all of them are able to play together at the same time. And you can say, oh, well, it's the same as if you were each using on your own computer or your own console, but it's not the same. It's electric when you're all in the same room together.
So I ask, will it bring in the hardcore gamer? Brian says no, but they'll have tag.
I think it will bring the hardcore gamer, actually, because I think that the control experience it's going to allow you in terms of what you can do. And they were showing this with the augmented reality stuff, where, I mean, you're turning around and looking inside, using it as this window to a virtual world, and then it's reflected on the screen. I think we're going to see next year at the show how hardcore this can get once the developers can show off what they can do with it.
And that's the thing not to forget. This is the announcement that they made when they said Nintendo Revolution. This is that stage in the life cycle.
It's very early.
We haven't seen everything it can do.
No, definitely. I mean, but just the idea of it, though, and the idea of mainstreaming it, because, okay, if you want an iPad and a Mac and you want to be able to do that, how many games do you think developers are going to write for a setup that is going to run you minimum $2,000 between the iPad and a Macintosh that can handle that? How much support do you think there's going to be for that on the Mac gaming market, which has already been a bit of a stretch to get every developer to release their games for the Mac? I mean, how much support do you really think that would get versus Nintendo's system, which I'm predicting is going to be, and this is pure speculation.
We don't know a price yet.
But I think it's going to be $349 or under, maybe even $299 if you look at how the costs are going to drop. And the hardware they're doing, going after for Xbox level, PS3 level, that's pretty inexpensive right now, all things considered, to put in the box. And doing the LCD screen, even that, with the way LCD prices have dropped, I think they're going to be able to do this at a very attractive price point, and you're going to have way more software support than you would ever see for a Windows Phone 7 add-on or a Mac iPad add-on.
Oh, I'll tell you, I will bet money on this prediction. I won't even put my prediction in a sealed envelope or nothing. I guarantee you the news story right before it comes out is that from a hardware perspective, the controller costs more to make than the actual console itself.
Oh, yeah, easy. That's an easy one. Definitely. Yeah. Before we move on to Sony and Microsoft, do you think Nintendo has successfully scooped them? Because that was the big fear, is that Nintendo's fallen behind, and what are they going to do to get ahead of these much more powerful consoles?
I mean, let's look at it. I mean, again, Sony and Microsoft, we're talking about movement controls still. And movement controls aren't for the hardcore gamer. They're just not. And movement controls are also, it's a good gimmick, but it's a gimmick that, I mean, we could talk about this in terms of Microsoft, but people weren't blown away by Star Wars for the Kinect. And we're talking about how laggy it felt, you know, and it didn't feel smooth. And you don't, I mean, the idea of getting up and moving around, that's great, and that works great for some titles, but you don't want to play Gears of War using your fingers like guns. Actually, I would like an old West gunslinger game where pow, 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 pow.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the one drawback about the Nintendo Wii U. So you're going to be able to use this controller. You're also going to be able to use what looked like classic Wii controllers, so you can have split screen gaming on your main screen, and then the Wii U controller. So it's a multiplayer system, but it came out later in the show with some of the interviews that I read that they're talking about support for only one Wii U screen-based controller per system.
Well, and that is how they represented it on all of the demo videos. I mean,
you didn't see 4 controllers at once, which is what I want. That's my dream.
Well, you can buy them. That's the way they do it with the Wii mode.
But they don't link up to the system because remember, it's streaming video and interacting. So they were talking about that might be something that they support, but they're not really sure. And I think that's a technical
is that the kind of thing that could be fixed with a firmware update down the road, or is it a case where whatever the wireless system is doesn't have the bandwidth to support anything more than just one unit?
Now, granted, and this kind of makes a bit of a transition to what we're talking about, because now some people have said, well, if you want the experience, why not use 4 3DSs and play head-to-head? Now, the 3DS, I was actually pretty impressed with some of the 3DS software that we saw at the show. I mean, Mario Kart 3DS was a lot of fun to play. I mean, they're showing off a lot more titles. A lot of the titles they were missing, quite frankly.
Zelda 3DS coming.
Yeah, they have a Zelda 3DS. I mean, they have basically all of their franchises covered for the 3DS, even Animal Crossing, which I guess was on the show floor, but we somehow missed it. So they've got a ton of 3DS support coming. But what I want, I mean, my dream is the Wii U with 4 screen-based controllers and being able to sit there with friends and family and play, GoldenEye or the equivalent, or to do, some real, essentially handheld LAN gaming, but on a bigger screen. The 3DS doesn't work for me. I don't see myself being in a situation where, 4 3DSs.
Think about even in terms of casual games, what a difference it would make if everyone had their own tablet. Imagine getting the full Jeopardy experience with Alex Trebek up there on there, and then everybody actually writing down their answer on there, and it actually shows up underneath. I mean, there's so many things you could do. They would really, really miss out, and I hope they feel the backlash against the suggestion that they think one would be enough. It's like, no, go ahead and charge me $299, include one with it. Go ahead and charge me $120 for each additional controller.
Oh, definitely.
I'll buy 2 more. I mean,
but it has to be able to use multiple,
to be able to render multiple video sources and pump that out there wirelessly. But if they do that with support for 4 controllers, I predict, it will be the dominant system going into the next generation of systems. Just because think about the gaming experiences you could have from a hardcore level, locally, online. I mean, think about it will be the system that does everything. I mean, and they were showing even ways that this could interact with movement. Like they were showing, like with a golf game, like putting it on the ground and like hitting your ball.
That was pretty impressive.
I mean, that's
using the Wiimote to be the stick and the touchscreen controller as the T.
And Nintendo people said, that years ago it was sort of like, well, with the Wii, like you are the controller idea. That was the thing. But now they're showing. I mean, this is just complete next level because it's multi-device computing.
Most games that you play, you are not the controller. When I play baseball, I need a bat. When I play football, I need a football. I mean, there are props for a reason.
I don't want to be in my living room pantomiming either. Yeah. Like everything. But I think
not that the Kinect isn't pretty awesome. It is, but it doesn't solve all of it.
For some things.
Yeah, keep in mind also, like the whole you are the controller, I think that's a bad way to market it because you're right. In most games, you have equipment. But meanwhile, you look at all the dance games out there, none of them hold a candle to Dance Central because you're actually dancing and it's actually judging your moves. And whereas you look at something with the Move where you got to hold a glow stick with a clown nose on it, it's nowhere in the same ballpark. So I think there's different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Sony. They had a very watched keynote announcement, not because they were going to announce the PS Vita, the new portable game console, not because they were going to talk about 3D screens, which we'll get to, but because they were going to apologize.
Yeah, I mean the joke was, I'm surprised someone didn't come out and actually fall on a sword. Just because it was such a big troublesome first quarter that they had because of that outage. Well, I guess second quarter.
Yeah, it was. It was right. It started in late April, and then carried on through most of May.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was kind of the dominant thing coming in. But they did show off some titles.
Still carrying on, actually.
Yeah, they showed off some new titles. They showed off more Move support, which I don't know how excited people are about the PS Move. I would think out of all motion controllers, the PS Move is probably the least exciting, at least in my book.
First of all, worlds, right? In that it's motion based, but you still need equipment, and it's the one that feels the most like Wii's innovation from what, 3 years ago now, 4 years?
The Wii was 2006. So
5 years ago. Holy crap!
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. So it's crazy with Move. It's like an air traffic controller. It's like this beacon they're putting around. But I think that the main thing that what really for Sony was I think the main focus of the main story was the PS Vita, in terms of showing it off, letting people get some hands-on time with it and seeing the games. I mean, I got to see it briefly actually the day after we were streaming and check it out. And I think that the hype is definitely true in terms of how good the screen looks and how good the graphics look on the PS Vita. And of course, the price point, $250.
Yeah, that was the big news. That was the moment you could feel the ripples and everybody, like, genuinely, they didn't expect it to be that high quality components, that innovative on the, handheld gaming control system, but then also match that price point. And I think it's going to be important too, because they recognize the people who are going to freak out about this. We're looking at the younger demographic, people who want to play it on the school bus, anywhere from like, early junior high through late college are the people who are going to want it. And those are people who, obviously very price sensitive.
Yeah, and I mean they showed off some games for it. I didn't get a chance to spend much time with it, so I don't know how well like the rear the touch sensitive, like I didn't get to really check out how that's integrated in terms of some of the additional controls. But I mean, it looks good for a portable. I mean, it looks like the most powerful portable system yet in terms of being dedicated for gaming.
In the chat room, CD Lawrence says, do you really need another 3G bill for something just to play games on? Here's the thing, is for the people who are buying this, it won't be another 3G bill. This will be their first 3G bill. And then when they switch over to an iDevice, then they're going to drop it for something else. But I don't think that people who already have, an iPhone and an iPad and 3G plans on there they're not the target demographic, I don't think.
But there are lots of people with 3G plans on other phones besides iPhones. I mean, the smartphone market is huge, and there's even data plans on those feature phones out there now for messaging and stuff. So even if it's not just about that, it's about, I have to pay another subscription for something.
I'm surprised it's not a phone, to be honest. It seems like that would have been the...
I almost think that's entirely because of corporate dynamics.
Yeah.
Sony Ericsson is a partnership between Ericsson and Sony.
Yes.
They make the phones. I have a feeling that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that Ericsson said, then we have to be the only people that put it out. And Sony said, we're not putting the PlayStation franchise in your hands.
Yeah.
And that's why we got the Xperia Play, which, if you notice, is not called a PlayStation phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the compromise is, okay, fine, we'll put some of it in the Xperia Play, and then we won't let the PS Vita be entirely a phone, although you can make calls with it on Skype.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. For me, I don't know if I would spend $250 on it, just simply because I don't play that much mobile gaming. And the 3DS, like for what I associate with mobile gaming, like we were talking about this with Brian, like I want a pick up and play game, which is why I like Mario Kart 3DS, because I can play it one round at a time, and it's cheap, it's simple, and I can just go with it. With the PS Vita, they're doing in-depth gameplay experiences that seem to be a little more the focus of what they were showing, in terms of like Uncharted. I think that, but for people that like that, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's the most hardcore portable gaming system in terms of, everything it can do. It's just interesting, though, to me, where, I don't know, because with the portable games market, it seems so much more centered around casual games, that it's interesting that they're taking such a hardcore approach.
And I think that's their niche, right?
Yeah, we discussed this before, and I think it's a matter of recognizing where you can find an unoccupied niche. Right now, I would be very hesitant to move into casual gaming, because not only do you have the DS Lite and, of course, the 3DS, but now you have the onslaughts of tens of thousands of games, many of them for free on iDevices for Android phones. The casual market is dominated now. There's no room for Sony to move into that. So that's the only play they had available. They had to go more hardcore.
When Brian gets a minor infraction for Texasizing a French word, niche.
Did I say niche?
You said niche. Yeah.
I think, now either is acceptable. I think it used to not be
it's a minor infraction.
Yeah, but I think that, I've heard...
Chat room was going, what's a niche?
What's a niche?
Dude, I guarantee you, if I had said niche, the Texas cops would have just kicked in the door.
Well, then I would have given you a pomposity infraction for being from Texas and saying niche.
Yeah.
Texas Rangers would kick in the door.
But I think that, you're absolutely right in the sense that, how are they going to make money doing a casual game system? Because if you're a hardware manufacturer, and I'm just to sort of recap, this doesn't get talked about anymore, but if you're a hardware manufacturer, the way you make your money, not off the system, it's essentially off charging every third-party publisher that puts a game on your system. You charge them like $5 or more per game that they sell,
except for the Wii, which is now so cheap to make.
Yeah, no, but not that they sell, but that they manufacture. And this used to be the big deal with cartridges back in the day, was if you wanted to put a cartridge on NES, you had to order your cartridges from Nintendo. It's still that way on systems, even when they're CD based or optical disc based, you have to order your units, your actual game,
your media.
Yeah, and even with digital, you have to go through their approval process. So the way you make your money is essentially on transactions of units sold. And the problem is that if you are Sony and you're coming into launching a new portable system, 99-cent games aren't really going to cut it unless you do huge volume, which I don't think you're going to do that kind of. I think on the iPhone you do that volume because it is a phone that also happens to play games and do a lot of other stuff. But if you're selling a gaming system, you better sure as hell be selling games you can get a pretty penny for so Sony can make their money.
PS Vita was almost entirely known about. They even had a press event for the NGP before this. Well, the one announcement that was entirely new was this 3D monitor for the PS3 and the 3D glasses.
I don't know. That's a neat idea. Wow, 3D TVs, yay.
I mean, I guess if you're saying nobody's going to buy a 3D TV and we've got this great 3D capability in our PS3, why don't we market a 3D monitor that's much cheaper so that people will spring for it and use it with their PS3? But is it going to work?
I don't know.
All right, how long do we give all of these companies before they realize that the technology that they're pushing right now as 3D televisions is not resonating with the market? It's not of a high enough quality, because did they even mention, like, is it passive or active shutter technology things that you got
I don't even know
glasses for? Which one?
I think it's active.
It's active shutter because you can actually use it with other 3D TVs.
All right. Well, then in that case, what is it?
It's a $60 pair of glasses. I mean, it's the cheap. If you own a 3D TV and you want to pick up some cheap extra glasses, this is the best way to go. As long as it's compatible with your TV.
Yeah.
Listen to the words you're saying. You're worried about whether or not the glasses are compatible.
I'm not worried.
This is not going to take off.
For those two people out there. Yeah. No, but they will never give it up.
They will. Nope. You know what? They won't give up. They won't give up installing it because the cost is already sunk, but they will give up on trying to convince us of what a BFD it is. They're just going to eventually be like, oh, and of course it'll have 3D, just like everything else does nowadays.
I agree with you there. All right, let's move over to Microsoft, who announced services. That was their big announcement.
Yeah.
You know, things that are going to come to Xbox Live.
It's really interesting that, I mean, just to think, this thought just popped into my head. So look at what they have in terms of where the Xbox Live is going, and then think about the Windows Media PC idea, 10 years ago, 7 years ago. What they're talking about. It's interesting how Xbox Live, they're almost trying to morph that into that same idea of the home theater PC, the Microsoft Entertainment Center hub. It's weird how the Xbox Live is heavily leaning on that. I mean, it seemed like.
Do you think that's not smart though? I think it is.
Everybody's
trying to crack that
but
code.
It's a weird backdoor that they've had to it, right? Because I mean, when did they first come out with the first home theater PC? It was with Windows XP. They had the special edition of it, and that didn't really seem to catch on. So it's like if the Xbox Live has DVR functionality, basically you've got the dream realized.
Well, and you know what it is this is a fantastic case of the. Eventually, what the Xbox will become, I believe, it will be that dream of the Windows Home Media Center PC. But it will have done it, first of all, by going in kind of the back door of gaming, where it's like, well, of course you put a gaming console in your living room. Oh, it can play video too, just one little thing at a time. Oh, it does Netflix. Oh, it does Hulu. In effect, by each of these additional pieces of the puzzle coming in one at a time, you essentially train households across America to where all of a sudden, like when I use my Xbox almost every single day, and I played a game on it for the first time in maybe 4 months. Last night, I played Settlers of Catan just for grins. It is the most.
And you played a board game.
Exactly. No,
you didn't even play like a first-person shooter.
In a high-end game, I play it on my PC because you get the better controls and a more immersive experience. So, but anything that's just a fun kind of party game, that's what I think of when I think of my Xbox.
Well, and we've kind of buried the lead here, but the big service announcement was Xbox Live's TV service will be coming later this fall. It will come internationally first. They've got deals in Australia. They've got deals in the UK. They don't have any deals in the United States yet. But the way it will work is you'll be partnered with, say, Sky TV in the UK. You'll have to be a customer of Sky.
Yeah. And
then you won't have to buy Sky's television service, but over the internet, all of the Sky TV channels will come to you, or some of them. I don't know if all of them will. But they'll come to you over the internet, and you'll be able to watch live TV on your Xbox.
What I see almost happening is more like we're already seeing with the iPhone with like Comcast's app. I think if you see something like that similar to the Sky thing, like if Comcast could put their app on the Xbox.
Similar to the HBO Go phenomenon.
Exactly,
right.
So, the idea that,
Although the Comcast app does live TV.
Does not the iPad, but not the iPhone, right? Yeah, because the iPhone one you can watch, but you can watch on demand. I mean, just for kicks.
And this Xbox thing is going to be live. It's going to have actual live events. It's actually going to work just like the ESPN 360 app works on the Xbox.
I mean, so it's cool that they're making more of an entertainment center. But again, I mean, let's look at how the companies are like their messaging in terms of what they're doing at the show. And with Microsoft, don't get me wrong, I think it's powerful and very useful. But to the hardcore gaming audience, is that the main thing that really they're looking for in terms of, the big announcements? Don't get me wrong. I mean, they showed a lot of software, everything from, the Tomb Raider reboot to the new Call of Duty. I mean, they had a lot of software they were showing off that's going to be, Mass Effect 3, stuff that's coming to 360. And then a lot of Kinect. I mean, they devoted a ton of their presentation to Kinect games.
Right.
And
trying to show the benefits of Kinect and motion control and the innovative
voice
way
control
they're using
and,
it. And the voice control, right?
Which I don't know. I mean, it's funny that the idea of it, they seem to make a real push to say this can be a hardcore gaming accessory. But then on the show floor, everyone that I talked to, like when I watched someone playing Star Wars Kinect, everyone I talked to that tried it was just kind of like, yeah, once you start moving beyond Dance Central, it's not really there. Not in the way that you want it to be.
There are very few examples, and there have been real-time strategy games that involved very competent execution where it's like, Bravo Squad, hit checkpoint Delta or whatever. But I think eventually they're doing the wrong thing by courting the hardcore gamers with a voice interface. I think the place for that to win is in a casual game market. Specifically, imagine if this could be ultimately what like Star Trek Bridge Commander was supposed to be with what they were originally working on with what they called a Yellum interface, because that's all the captain does is just say, raise shields, divert power to starboard engines, that kind of thing. How awesome would that be if it was all high res and you had voice actors and you actually felt like you're sitting there in the middle of a firefight? Like,
I don't even think that has to be a casual thing. I think that could be a real time or an RPG kind of interface.
I don't see it. The problem is it's got to be just silly enough that you don't mind everybody watching you do it. And the people who play hardcore games, it's very much a you're in the moment type thing. When I'm playing Fallout 3, I don't really do it with the expectation of other people watching me kick ass because it's tedious and it's not fun to watch. But if you're going to shout and divert things, you're giving a performance. That's when you're tapping into the Dance Central or the Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh, but Brian, you're forgetting all video gamers are alone in their basement.
No. But then maybe that is the problem. In which case, it's bad enough you're alone in your basement, but now your mom is
shouting.
Starboard!
I'm thinking of something like Civilization, which I do not want to play on a console. I want to play it on a PC.
Yeah.
But I could play it on a console if I didn't have to actually use the controls, but I could say, move piece right, and it would go right.
Do you think that would get tedious after a while?
Jump to Lahore, and I go in and open the menu. Maybe it would get tedious, but it seems cool now. You may be right.
I think voice control, I think it's that awkward sort of bridge stage to getting to where we want it to. I mean, well, ultimately we all know what we really want, which is just the holodeck. And just to be able to, real-time interact with things. I think that's the dream.
As soon as you guys can be replaced with digital simulacrum, the better. I'm so tired of real people in my life. We got to get rid of all this.
Actually, Brian, we're not real. But anything else on Microsoft?
Yeah,
before we move on?
They announced Halo doing a Halo Anniversary version that's a remake where you can switch between the graphics using the Reach engine or the original graphics. You can have either experience.
That's coming out this year, right?
Yeah,
in November,
I believe so. And then also Halo 4 was announced, I guess, as the start of a new trilogy. That's coming out
next year.
Yeah, but
and it will have Master Chief, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, this is the first Master Chief centric Halo since the whatever the last one was, like 5-6 years ago or something. Are you guys? Does it affect your enthusiasm in any way? The fact that this is no longer a Bungie property, that Microsoft owns the right to it, and the original creators of Halo aren't going to have anything to do with it, or is it a case where the other properties that weren't Bungie related have proven their worth, and that this is going to be as big as Halo ever was?
What's the history? What are publishers batting for switching developers mid-franchise?
Well, I'll tell you, Treyarch nailed it, because remember, Treyarch used to be the redheaded stepchild of the Call of Duty franchise when you just needed something to fill in the gaps. Like it was Call of Duty 1 and 2, and then they did Call of Duty 3. Then Infinity did Call of Duty 4. But then Call of Duty World at War was pretty good. And then Modern Warfare 2 was all Treyarch, right? Am I getting that right?
No. Wait, who was it that did that?
Wait, which one was Treyarch? What are they? The latest Call of Duty, right? No, okay. They were telling me I'm wrong. Whichever one. All I remember is the last game that Treyarch did. I was really pleased with. I was like, Treyarch is no longer the redheaded stepchild of this arrangement.
It doesn't,
not that great.
For me, and I've run through this with like, is Sid Meier really involved with Civilization? And he wasn't. Wow. And he was. To me, it doesn't matter as long as the game is good and it fulfills and feels like it's part of the franchise. A lot of these developers, the actual folks who are in the trenches, staying up 24 hours and sleeping on a cot in the back room, move from place to place anyway. So it's never the exact same team.
And you know what weirds me out even? The greatest example of this actually is Nintendo. It was weird to find out how many outside development houses are working on 3DS games and adaptation of classic franchises. Yeah. Because when we think about a lot of those, we want to think about the core Nintendo of Japan, the Magic Factory.
Miyamoto is alone in his room.
Oh, God. Right. That takes me back. I feel like we talked about it on the live stream, but it just takes me back to the press conference and the guy sitting behind us.
Oh, my God.
When Shigeru Miyamoto came out, the guy's like, Shiggy! And he's just commenting on every single thing. Brian can do the best impression.
No. I mean, I'm just saying it's so weird because I think you nailed it, where it's like the only reason I'm so annoyed with how loud he's being is because there is a secret fanboy in all of us that's making those same sounds, but just don't be so loud about it. Like he just wants all of us to hear his enthusiasm for everything. And it was almost as though it reminded me of that scene from The Simpsons.
And Brian freezes.
Is when Marge. Oh, did I lock up there?
Yeah.
Where Marge walks into the TGI Fridays and she gives like you're like, oh, an alligator with sunglasses.
Yeah.
That's what this guy's like. It's like they start the demo and he's like, no way. Luigi's Mansion 2.
I love vacuuming cobwebs.
My favorite, kart racing underwater. How's that even possible?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the best with everything, that's totally legit. Oh, my God.
A guy sounds like a shill.
We should have recorded him. That was our biggest regret, was not just recording his reaction to the entire Nintendo press briefing. It really that made the briefing for me. That guy. I wish I could track him down. If anyone knows a Nintendo fanboy out there that used to work at a GameStop but quit because, as he put it, the manager was a fat bastard, so he quit.
You got his whole history.
He was telling his whole history to the other people he was sitting next to, and now he works for the best boss ever. I can't remember where it was. But
everybody go to your friends and ask whether or not underwater kart racing is legit. If he says yes, then make sure to send us a dossier on whoever.
Ask him how it's possible. If he says, I don't know, then you know.
And he squealed over the gold Wiimote.
Oh, he actually made the decorated, the bejeweled, encrusted gold remote.
By the way, Chucky J in the chat room is claiming that the Halo reboot is not the Reach engine. It's actually just Halo 1 with the new graphics layer.
I thought they were doing it in the Reach engine.
The multiplayer will be.
The multiplayer will be.
Okay.
That explains it.
There we go.
That's why we have people in the chat room.
Excellent. Thanks, Chucky J.
Especially, and that should be the disclaimer for this show. I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm just like, yesterday I slept the sleep of the dead, and I'm still just kind of like worn out from the 2 days I was at E3.
Oh, absolutely. It was brutal. It was brutal and a blast. And what's funny is like the enthusiasm was so high that even after that day that started, we did probably, 12 hours of running the show, live streaming half the time, doing demos, which we'll talk about a bit. But even when clearly like, good, now we could go to bed. But because we were roomies, we ended up talking for like 2 more hours.
We were up till 2 in the morning.
And there was no IAS to make you stop.
Yeah, exactly. We needed that. We needed IAS to be like, hey, guys. I think it's bedtime.
Call up your hotel room.
Yeah.
Okay, stop talking. Go to sleep. Hey, we normally would do our calendar segment here, but I don't think this is calendar stuff that's listed here. And the segment header is deleted.
Also, by the way, if IAS is in the chat room, dude, why aren't you just in here? I like how he's chiming in the chat.
He didn't want to drag the chair in. That's why.
Oh, I see how it is. But no. Yeah, and again, this week is really loose. I mean, next week, in fact, we'll talk about some of the games that are coming out. I mean, like Infamous 2, Duke Nukem Forever, which we saw at E3.
Out internationally today.
Yeah.
It is real.
People
are playing it right now somewhere on planet Earth.
And we'll also probably talk about Red Faction Armageddon for next week. So that's a bit of a tease of the new games that are out there. I'm really looking forward to Infamous 2. Really looking forward to playing that. Duke Nukem Forever. That was weird at E3. I almost wish we hadn't spent so much time on it at E3, given that it's out. And we were put under these weird preconditions to go into the room to view it. That was
And again, I don't want to be an apologist for them, but what a spot that they're in, because along with buying everything for pennies on the dollar, when Gearbox grabbed it in order to actually get the thing put out, they also bought a ton of baggage with this. This thing has been the butt of jokes for so long that they've retired those jokes. They named it the Duke Nukem Forever Vaporware Award from Wired Magazine. And so with that, I understand why the PR specialists are very hesitant. They said, okay, you could go in, but don't talk about it. No commentary.
That was so weird. Yeah, like we had to go in there and be completely silent. And it's just, I haven't been put under that that sort of
that kind of a thumb.
Yeah, it was like let's talk about this for a second about our E3 experience. There's a lot of stuff we didn't see and a lot of stuff we're going to check out in the after show today. So stick around. I know we're going to do a wrap up like this is the regular
are the Payday and Star Wars: The Old Republic, are we saving those for
we're going to do those during, because that's stuff we spent some hands-on time with and part of the experience.
We'll look at more of the footage and some of the walkthrough stuff for the Old Republic later on, but those were two games that I think definitely stood out to both of us. You want to jump in on those?
Yeah, in a second, but I just want to kind of explain to people the vibe, and as someone as Osned put it out in the chat room, the E3 PR vibe was so weird, and it was a really weird show.
It was not legit.
It was not totally legit.
How is that even possible?
Yes. It was like waiting in line at Disneyland, and I was talking about this with a friend who I spent some of the day with on day 2 of the show, where it was like, so basically, if I want to check out Battlefield 3, I can wait in line for 3 hours, and I can see maybe 2 to maybe 3 games of these big A-list titles at the show. It used to not be like that. I mean, it used to be you would see the really far off, like we just want to give you a little tease. I remember like a good example, like when Tony Hawk, one of the Tony Hawk games came out. I was like, got to go in a back room with Tony Hawk, and they would show you some stuff like, we're not showing this on the show floor. It's still very early. Check it out. It used to be those kind of teases, but this time...
You know what I'm going to say it is?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that a lot of it has to do with the fact that E3 as a 3 to 4 day window is a time to release high resolution HD versions of all your gameplay, of all your trailers on YouTube. I think people factor that in, and they realize that, we don't need you to come in and have your camera grab a little bit of footage over this crappy screen right here so that it looks bad when you take it back. We already have that going out. So they'll say, no, what we want to do is we want to craft your expectations. We want to craft your interaction with the demo. And I think that's part of why they're being so hands-on and managing the way they want to manage your experience so they can help manage your expectations for the game.
Well, I think that's part of it, but then here was the other weird thing. Like, I mean, Modern Warfare 3, great example of this. Like, we go into the booth and we waited for the countdown. We waited 7 minutes of a countdown to the Modern Warfare 3 presentation, which had this big wraparound screen. I'm sure if people were watching it live.
It was very
impressive. But that's what it was like at every booth, where it was like, okay, we're going to show you the video. We're going to have lights going to sort of, augment and the experience of, the blast. Everything was really loud, cranked up. But then if you want to see the actual game, wait in this line. If you want to get in there and actually play it, wait in this line for 3 hours. Or in our case, where there was a lot of like, we can maybe get you in there, but no cameras.
Yeah, we don't want anyone to see it.
Or my favorite was at Nintendo. We're looking for a camera-ready booth guide to give you a tour.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. We actually had somebody. We're full on. We're walking over to the Wii U, and they're like, "Oh no! You're taking him?
We need a camera ready. We need a camera ready guide."
He looks perfectly presentable.
Well, you know what that is? That is making sure that they have been briefed on not saying stupid things.
Oh, and that was even one thing that we were told.
That's what camera ready means.
When we checked out Uncharted 3.
Not about how good looking they are.
Uncharted 3, we were let behind the rope until we could film, but we could not ask anyone working there any questions on camera.
Or any of the players who were playing. Yeah. We couldn't ask them their opinions of what they were explaining. But you know what it is? Here's what I suspect. I suspect that in those cases, we were never talking to the actual decision maker. I think we were talking to somebody who knew that you don't go making these calls on your own, and that they gave us as much leeway as they would feel personally responsible for.
Google has a very good way of handling this for their engineers and their developers. They'll let all of them do press. They'll let all of them go on TV, go on video podcasts, but they have to take a course first. Yeah. And all the course does is say, here are the things you're allowed to say, and here are the things you have to keep secret. Yeah. And if you have a sense of that, fine, go be free, talk, because they don't want people out there divulging trade secrets and saying things that they shouldn't say ahead of time. And I think that's probably the same kind of thing.
The camera, and especially the fact that our setup looked it looked totally legit, as it were. I think that
how is that even possible?
I think it freaks some people out because on day 2 of the show, I walked around and got into some very good discussions with developers, just people that were just talking to me. Great example of an experience I had at the DC Universe Online at Sony Online Entertainment. Like, someone was talking to me, and I started telling them about how I spent 3 months of my life at the beginning of this year, as you remember, just pretty much addicted to that game. And we were just talking about, and he was telling me all sorts of stuff that I would not think they would want to be talking to people about. And I think it was completely because it was off camera. I mean, and all I could say is the Fortress of Solitude raids and alerts they have coming up for that look awesome. He, admits that they weren't quick enough with some content out of the gate, but I mean, they got a lot of cool stuff planned for the game. And hopefully we'll actually be able to get someone from the dev team as a guest in a couple weeks. I made some good contacts there.
Excellent.
But for me, and I think it deserves saying, I'm not alone in this. I thought it was just sort of my insane fanboyism for heist movies, but I was seeing that PC Gamer agrees with me that the find of the show, the surprise of the show, was Payday the Heist.
And boy, does this thing have, now that I've actually seen the game, first of all, it's a great idea, and it looks to be a great execution of it, but this has major controversy written all over it. Expect to see it. Before you see it at your local store, you're going to see it on Fox News. That's for damn sure.
What's the premise of the game? What's the deal?
Cops and robbers.
Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead, in that you have 4 players that have a goal. They've got to reach an objective, and they have to kill giant swarming hordes of enemies that attack them. So in Left 4 Dead, you've got, 4 survivors. You got seas of zombies that you have to kill.
Except in this case,
Payday, you are criminals pulling off a bank heist who have to kill waves of police officers coming to arrest you for your crime.
There you go. And that will cause millions of children to grow up to be criminals.
Right.
I met one of the main developers from Payday the Heist, very enthusiastic. I believe he was a Nordic man, and I love that because he was very enthusiastic about the game. But what was awesome is they had all the devs there working the booth. I mean, this wasn't a situation where it was like booth babes. They had devs there all wearing like Reservoir Dog suits and like clown masks. But the game is so much fun. Like, I got to spend some time playing it, and it's just a pick up and play, run and gun, team-based shooter where you're robbing banks. And it's going to be an online-only title available for the PC and PS3.
Everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have a little wish fulfillment fantasy of being able to get away with robbing a bank and, stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. That's what these games are about.
Yeah, I mean, we could show a little bit of footage while we're talking about it here.
We can?
Well, we could show it and talk. I think it's the sound that killed us.
Oh, really?
Because I think their flagging algorithms are a little more sound-based.
You would think that it would want people to see the trailers they release, but then you just never know.
But what was cool about it was this wasn't one of the big hyped games going into the show, but everyone I talked to that played this game at the show loved this game. And it was something that...
It was legit.
Yes, they thought it was totally legit. And it's just... Brian.
Here's what I'm hoping to get out of this. One of my favorite things that occurred when I played Left 4 Dead was the first time I had the completely unironic moment of sacrificing my life so that the rest of the 3 could make it in. And I actually found myself saying the words, "Go on without me, don't worry about it." And it was awesome to actually live that moment. What I'm hoping to get out of Payday the Heist is the moment where I need to get away from the cops and somebody is slowing me down. And I can unironically say, "Sorry, buddy, not today," and put a bullet in one of my teammates so I could get out of there.
What do we say to death?
Not today.
In fact, that was one of the questions I didn't get to ask the developer. I wanted to ask if you can betray your teammates.
Shoot them?
Yeah, just shoot them and take off with all the money. Yeah. But so this game for me was just a huge find. I was excited about going in based on what I'd heard about it, but I have to say, just in terms of picking up and play it, I had a great experience with it. But I guess we should move on next to Brian. Your game of the show, obviously, and for me, something that I came around to a little bit after watching some of it and watching some of both the gameplay and the trailers and thinking, you know what? Okay, maybe this does look like something I'd want to play, especially, well, Brian, you could probably talk about it far better than me.
First of all, major kudos to John Tilton, my new assistant, for setting up a demo. In the brief 45-minute break we had between our 3.5-hour stream and our 2.5-hour stream, I ran over and I got hands-on with the Old Republic It's the same demo. You can actually see a couple of playthroughs on it that are up on the web. We'll probably watch bits and pieces of them after the show. But they built a character who's like level 25, 26. And they had, again, they're still very managing the experience. They're still crafting your experience. So for me, what they did was they built a Sith Inquisitor with a focus on lightning. And one of the things that they're doing in the different trees, they're trying to build different character-like experiences. So if you're going to be a Sith Inquisitor, you're going to do the dark side of the Force, at some point you're going to move, and you're either going to get more of a Darth Maul experience where you're all about your double-bladed lightsabers and, brute force, or you're going to get your more Emperor Palpatine experience where you're going to focus on chain lightning and that kind of effect as well. Now, keep in mind, this is probably, out of all of them, the character class I would be least interested in. What I want to do is I want to play as a bounty hunter or as a smuggler. Some of these more clever types of classes where you rely on gizmos. But having said that, it's interesting because I played a ton of City of Heroes back in the day. And then I tried to get into World of Warcraft, and I spoke the language of the game, and I understood it was a very good implementation for an MMO, but there was something about the wizards and goblins that just didn't get its hooks into me. But after playing, I think I got up to like level 15 or something in World of Warcraft back in the day. But playing this game and slowly remembering so many emotions felt very, very natural. I mean, it's obvious that they want this game to take on World of Warcraft head-to-head, which is very dangerous and very insane. But if there's one property and one execution that's going to do it, I think it's going to be this. The story is super compelling. You can play on the Sith team, but still decide to play light side. And one of the things that they have is the multi-character conversations. It's very easy when you're running around to tag someone who happens to be on the same mission as you, and the two of you just hook up. And then when you do, you find yourself having a conversation. Now, one of the things that they've worked out is, let's say one person is trying to go full on evil. He wants to get as many dark side points as he can to unlock some of the special tools and abilities. And meanwhile, you want to play his light side. Well, what it does is during the conversation, every time there's a break, it rolls a random number between 1 and 100 to decide which of the teammates is going to get to answer the question. And it awards light side and dark side points not upon anything that somebody else does, but what your intentions are. So let's say in the demo that I saw on YouTube recently, the character, 2 out of the 3 interactions, the character kept choosing light side things, trying to help out the guy. But then finally, the other guy got his turn, and he was just like, yeah, let me just kill you at the end of it. And of course, the person going light side wasn't punished at all. The person on the dark side got his dark side. That
wasn't very light side.
Well, no, it wasn't very light side to turn around and kill him. But both characters are able to get what they want. So you can partner with people who are trying to play a totally different experience than you, and yet both of you can get what you want out of it. We'll watch this whole cinematic trailer afterwards, because there is more personality and story in this 3-minute opening cinematic than there was in the entire prequels. It has kindled something in me that I have not experienced since, before you were born.
I have a bad feeling about this. Glenn, what's your opinion?
These aren't the droids you're looking for. No, I think it looks good. It's seeing the way that it was presented there and seeing some of the gameplay. I like it. I mean, it actually reminds me. It looks a lot better than Galaxies was, that's for sure. It seems like a bit more emphasis on having action involved with it. The cinematic trailer is fantastic. Not that always blows me away, but I think it communicated the idea of the game well, and also in showing that you're going to get to do more and have more of the experiences I think that you want from a Star Wars game than Galaxies delivered on.
Some of the surprises that I was told during the demo is the whole ship thing. I thought the ship was just going to be a clubhouse that you could kind of spec out to feel good about it, but they're functional vehicles, very large functional vehicles, and the ship piloting missions, you will be able to build things that will be useful on your ship to increase the speed or the maneuverability, that kind of thing. But it will be a very arcadey type of experience. So it will be more skill-based when you do that. What's great also is they want you to die a lot in the game. And what they mean by that is they want it to be a challenge.
Yeah, they want it to be difficult. Okay.
Exactly. They want it to be difficult, but they also, if you think about it, they're really focusing on the single-player experience, because when you play a single-player first-person shooter, your only penalty for death is hitting the quick load button, and likewise making sure to hit the quick save button. That's roughly what they want to approximate in this. They want it to be fun, and as a result, they're simplifying things in ways that I think, on balance, are going to be very, very positive. I think it's going to be a good experience. And I was never into PvP in an MMO, but the way they describe the PvP thing sounds a lot like doing a Team Fortress thing, which I think will be a lot of fun.
We need to stay on target. If this was a real show anyway, we would take a break right now and thank our sponsor, Advertiser, who provides great service that we can recommend at this address.
Make sure to use promo code at checkout.
All right.
You know, Brian, have you actually used Advertiser?
Oh my gosh. Advertiser. Before they even started advertising, I used Advertiser. There was one time it was Situation when I had problem, and it was provided a solution by Advertiser. What about you?
You know, whether you're a novice or an expert, Advertiser is something you should definitely be checking out.
And we thank Advertiser for their support of At the Controls. On now to boss level.
Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to skip down a bit because I think we're going to show this footage. Okay, so stick with us after, and we're going to show some of this awesome E3 footage, everything from Skyrim, Battlefield 3, Bioshock Infinite, and more, just because we want to make sure copyright-wise that we don't play too much.
Okay, so we're going to skip boss level, go to big games of the week, skip that, go to multi-platform, skip that, go to console, skip that, go to PC Indie, skip that, and it's time for retro.
Now, the reason why I mentioned this in retro is, Brian, should we tell this story? Why don't you I feel like I've told this story to so many people since I've been back that you should tell the story of our E3 after hours party that we went to.
Oh, dude. Well, we were looking.
Was it retro?
It ended up being quite retro.
Okay.
It was quite retro in that I sat there in awe of Glenn Rubenstein's super mojo sauce. Like we were like a Wonder Twins, whereas like I opened the door and then he walked out and just rocked it. It was amazing. We wanted to go to the World of Tanks party because we had heard
desperately wanted to go to it.
I forget the suite, like the LaGrange
Laguna suite.
There you go, the Laguna
at the Westin Bonaventure.
I like the Suite better. But so we're going around and we ask at the front desk, we're like, hey, where's the Laguna Suite? And they're like, well, that's not an official party, so we don't know where it is. And if we did know, we couldn't tell you. I was like, well, where might the Laguna Suite be? And they're like, it might be on the 30th floor. So we go up to the 30th floor. We check all 4 towers, nothing. Then we go up another level, the 31st floor. We walk around and we hear laughter and talking, and there's a door kind of cracked, and we're like, hey, what's up? We knock on it and opened. There's this beautiful 40-something-year-old woman is just like, well, hello. And we're like, is this the World of Tanks party? And she goes, nope, but come on in. And so we walk in, and the first thing I notice are like the super high-end bourbons that are on the table. And we're like, what is going on? You're like, oh, it's just a party that some of us throw together here. You know, what do you guys do? And so instantly social engineer, scam school, I instantly think, oh, crap, we're being auditioned. So I instantly say, I host a show called Scam School. I was on The Tonight Show twice. I could show you magic. And then we go around and say who we are. Before too long, I'm teaching magic tricks and hanging out with them. And this was about this time that we found out that we had stumbled into a party with all the highest level Sony executives and their guests.
We're talking people you see at the keynotes or just hanging out.
Exactly. And then
was there a person falling on a sword in the corner?
And that was the best part is we were with the guys from Hack 5 where when they introduce who they are, imagine the looks that Sony would give when you say you're with Hack 5. Just how that sounds.
Especially the host of the party says, oh, yeah, I'm the lawyer suing those gentlemen.
Yeah. He's like, I am the guy who sued GeoHots.
And so once we were like made men, once we had introduced ourselves and we got to talking, that's when Glenn completely rocked it. He starts talking to Riley, the lawyer who actually put the party together, and they start old-timing each other.
Because it turns out he used to work at Sega. Back in the early 90s. Exactly. He knew who I was.
Okay.
Exactly. And then Glenn's dropping like, ever since the Galoob Game Genie case. And then Glenn's like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I was an expert witness in that. I was instrumental in making that go the way it did. He's like, oh, okay. I'm just like, what is happening here? It was amazing.
We had a really good time. But But it was completely over our heads. And although my favorite part was when Brian is showing them, he's got a book of matches, he does tricks. And all I'm thinking is, if this was a movie, this is where he sets off the sprinklers and we have to hightail it out of there. Thankfully, that didn't happen.
But what was weird was I asked John, I was just like, because this is John's first experience, his first week on the road with me. I was like, man, pretty insane. How was your E3? He was like, oh, it was good. We just didn't do many of the E3 things. And I was just like, what we did was so much better than the World of Tanks party. Are you crazy? We went and crashed a party with Sony execs. That's as boss as it gets.
And here's the funny thing. So the next day, I'm over at Playfish, and EA had a sweet offsite where I had some friends that work there. I'm over there getting lunch, and I'm saying, I went to the craziest party last night. And someone's like, was it the World of Tanks party? And I was like, no, we were trying to find it. And I met someone who went to the World of Tanks party. Supposedly that was totally lame.
Now, see, at this point, I would probably be forced to yellow card you for name dropping, but you can't remember any of the names of the execs.
That's why we're not doing it.
So you're out. You're good. You're clean.
Well, and
no foul.
And so apparently we totally hit up the right party. Apparently the World of Tanks party was like, someone described it was like that high school party where your friends get a hotel room and there's like a bunch of people and like PBRs and just, like a couple of systems. Supposedly that was really like a little underwhelming. So we had an awesome time. And in fact, what I found out, and if he will be cool enough to live up to it, because we had like a half an hour long conversation about E3's past, all sorts of inside baseball stuff, talking about the history of Sega, talking about he worked on some games for the Sega CD, just talking about the business side of video games in a really interesting way. And if our listeners are interested, he said he would come on this podcast in the future as a guest. Now he's one of the heads of legal at Sony, so he can't really talk about that.
And did you get his phone number?
We have his info.
All right, excellent.
I'll have his card.
And he
so
said
now
he would do
it's
it.
A question of whether or not he said that under the influence of very high-end nice bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, they were so cool to us. It could not have worked out better in us crashing this party inadvertently. But what it brings us to is what we chose for the retro segment this week, because when I was talking about my E3 and predating E3, because I'm 35, but in this business I'm an old man. CES experiences and talking about behind closed doors. One thing that I brought up when I found out he had been Sega back in the day is we were just swapping stories. I said, "Remember Sega VR?" And he was like, oh, my God, that was complete vaporware. And I'm like, I know. It was shown that behind the scenes during one CES, I think it was in 91, I want to say summer of 91, when they first showed it. They had Alan Hunter from MTV. They were doing the presentation.
Alan Hunter was also vaporware.
Yeah, it would have been 91 or 92. And they were showing off Sega VR, which I'm not sure some people might remember had the Popular Science cover. I mean, it was really hyped at the time as remember the virtual reality craze that Sega VR was going to be the future of video gaming. Behind closed doors, only a select few got to see it. We put on essentially what was like 2 Game Gears strapped to our head. I mean, it was really low resolution. I would be surprised if it was anything better than like 240 by 160 on each screen. And it had kind of lame motion tracking, but they showed like this battle defense type missiles coming at you game where you had to sit there and, look around. I mean, it was really a lackluster experience. And it was funny that now in hindsight, and this is part of the reason why I want this guy as a guest on our show, is because now that the NDAs have all expired. Yeah. That's all in the past. I mean, he could just say, he said everyone internally, like some people got motion sick from it. Like no one had a good experience with this, fake VR that Sega was essentially pushing as what was going to be their huge edge over Nintendo back in the day.
All right, let's move.
I'm in love with this footage that we're seeing right now. I know,
it's pretty awesome, especially Alan Hunter's shirt. Let's move on to our user review / kill of the week.
Yeah, we have an intro for it that Joshua Caleb put together. We have 2 intros, Joshua Caleb's video and then the audio that I made. We still have to merge them together somehow, but let's show the video.
Random Awesome of the Week. I think we just renamed it.
Do we have the audio?
I'm changing the template right now. Well, actually, I'm changing the wrong page. Random Awesome of the Week.
Everybody's a winner.
We will merge.
Who is that?
I have a bunch of radio production libraries.
Was that Scott Fletcher?
I have a bunch of production libraries, and I like to take things out of context. And I have many more sound montages that I used to use on my old radio show, but that one I always enjoyed. So Jose, coincidentally from San Jose, California, sent in this short.
He is a saint.
kill of the week from Battlefield Bad Company 2. And I think it's impressive because this is a distance kill that I don't even know how he pulled this off. And he apologizes for some of the quality issues. He was using Fraps for the first time to record it, but it's this short little clip that I liked. You can see there.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. But that is a kill. And I emailed him like, dude, I couldn't even see the guy. How did you do that?
I know. I was like waiting for it. I'm like,
yeah.
What is he shooting at?
That's talent.
That's well done.
Could he see something, or that's just where he predicted it, or was just total luck shot?
Jose, if you're in the chat room, please explain how you pulled that off.
Or email us.
Yes.
What's our email address?
TWiTgameshow@gmail.com. If you have a kill shot, a random awesome, a fail even, or you just want to talk to us and send something in earlier, we talked a little bit about that email that Joshua Caleb had sent in talking about, the Wii U and what he sees as some sort of precursors to that in PC gaming and interaction. So, send in your suggestions, your letters, your emails, or your grievances, perhaps. And then, of course, also we should give it out. If you want to hit me up during the week on Twitter, want to be a little involved in the pre-planning of the show, know what I'm playing or working on, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein. We can probably toss that up on the screen there. And
I can verify that address is legit. Glenn Rubenstein. There are 4 N's in Glenn Rubenstein. Make sure you get them all in there.
They're not all in a row either. They're different places. So.
It's like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
So, so that'll wrap up this quote-unquote official
We would do our feedback
portion
episode, but we're pretty much the entire thing is feedback. So
yes. So this pretty much wraps up our portion of the more prepared stuff. Now stick with us if you're listening now after on the live stream. We're going to watch a bunch of videos and talk about more games, and we're just going to infringe on copyrights like crazy.
No, we're not.
Fair use.
Stop that.
We're going to push the
We are going to make absolutely fair use of some online content.
We are going to fair use the hell out of it. But to wrap up the official portion with our outro music, until next time, on behalf of Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood, and myself, Glenn Rubenstein, I'd like to remind you all that time enjoyed is never time wasted, especially when you're at the controls.
Start that when he's talking. And then bring it up.
I should auto-tune that. I think that would be working very well.
DJ Alex. Does it end on its own, or do we?
Yeah, it fades out.
You can fade it out whenever you want.